I don't hear anybody. Are we still live?
Welcome to New Tracks Modeling. New Tracks provides unique mentoring opportunities to enhance your modeling skills by connecting with talented modelers and manufacturers from around the globe who generously share their knowledge and artistic expertise. Build your confidence, refine modeling techniques, and share your projects with a supportive community of fellow modelers, all while enjoying the world's most rewarding hobby. Join us every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern on Zoom and YouTube for our free live program. Missed a program? No problem. Individual show segments are uploaded to YouTube for convenient on-demand viewing. Be sure to connect with the New Tracks community by joining the New Tracks Facebook page, where you can interact with other modelers and see what they are modeling. Visit our website at www.newtracksmodeling.com, where you'll find information about upcoming events and the latest issue of our magazine, New Tracks Modeler. New Tracks Modeler features articles from builds on the show, exciting new products, and other great articles. And now, here is the host of New Tracks Modeling, Tom Farrell.
Good evening, and welcome to New Tracks Modeling, streaming live on Zoom and YouTube, just as we do every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern. We're pleased you're here. Whether you're a seasoned modeler, new to the hobby, or just enjoy the show, we welcome you. This broadcast, along with 5 other platforms, which include the program you're watching live now, our New Tracks website, our New Tracks Facebook page, our New Tracks Mentoring Scholarship Program, and our relatively new New Tracks Modeler digital magazine, is part of a broader vision created by Jim Kello, Master Model Railroader and New Tracks mentor. All platforms are offered free of charge and are supported by a dedicated team of volunteers who are passionate about model railroading. Before we board our first-class train tonight, we want to sincerely thank Brennan's Model Railroading for sponsoring this evening's program.
Tonight's New Tracks Modeling Meetup is sponsored by Brennan's Model Railroading. For over 25 years, Brennan's Model Railroading has been offering unique products focused on the O-scale market. Their flagship product, Brennan's Better Ballast, was an instant hit and continues to be the industry leader. The prototypical size and natural color blend of real crushed granite make it the choice for discerning modelers. Since then, Brennan's has developed a complementary line of natural ground cover materials. Brennan's also has craftsman kits that anyone can build. The complete photographically illustrated instructions assume you've never done this before, and explain in step-by-step detail how to create an outstanding model. The Frank Ellison Tribute series of kits are amazing additions to any layout. These kits take Frank Ellison's scratch-built iconic structures to a new level using modern methods and materials with Dennis Brennan's additional details and amazing instructions. See the complete line of products on the Brennan's Model Railroading website. Use the QR code to visit.
I encourage everyone to take a look at Brennan's Model Railroading's website, look at all the products he's offering. We are going to be doing a Watch Me Build a build along on featuring a new laser cut kit by Brennan's Model Railroading. It's Gilbert Substation in O scale. My apologies to Mr. Brennan, but we won't be featuring that this evening. We're going to do it not next week, but the week after. There was just too much going on with the narrow gauge show coming up next week. The magazine has to be out this week, and then, of course, the show. But that gives you more time to take advantage of the discount that Brennan is offering on the kit. The kit lists for $159.95, and with the code NEWTRX, new tracks. You can get $20 off the kit, and you can build that kit side by side with me in a couple weeks' time. Before we roll into the first station, I'd like to, let me make a little note here. Next week's show will not be a full-blown show. Pat Rivard will host it. It's going to be something similar to what we did at Christmas and New Year's, because a lot of us are going to the National Narrow Gauge Convention next week. We're just going to have basically an extended "What do you want to talk about?" hosted by Pat Rivard. Then we'll get back to our regular scheduled programs the following week. So I encourage you to participate next week, but it'll be an open forum, more or less. So now let's take a look at what's coming down the main line on tonight's show. Tonight we're going to feature touch toggles. Kevin Hunter, who will give us an overview of his latest products and new releases. It's an exciting product. I personally use it. It's really great technology, and what's neat about it is it's virtually foolproof. It's so well engineered. Then we're going to do a little discussion on model railroad electronics, led by our own Phil Edholm. What topics are interesting to our viewers? There's all kinds of directions we can go with electronics, and we're going to explore them here. And then we're going to switch to what's on your workbench, an open forum that I'll hopefully be assisted by our very own Steve Sherrill. Then we have a very exciting Caboose, the Elgin, Joliet, and Eastern Railroad. It's a huge layout, 60 feet in length, HO scale. I think you'll really like it. So before we roll into our first station, I'd like to spotlight the NewTrax Modeling Scholarship Program.
The NewTrax Modeling Mentoring Scholarship is the only national scholarship for model railroaders from a volunteer nonprofit organization. For academic year 2025-26, we are awarding three $2,000 scholarships for model railroaders pursuing a STEAM degree. We hope to award a similar number of scholarships for the 2026-27 academic year. We believe it is critical to support the next generation of model railroaders. You can support the NewTrax Modeling Mentoring Scholarship by donating online using the Zephy platform or directly by check. All donations are tax deductible.
If we have Bob Davidson on, or Hank Primus, I'll say a few words about the scholarship. Not a month ago, maybe 6 weeks ago, we awarded 4 $2,000 scholarships this year to 4 very promising model railroaders, and they are all STEM students from across the United States. They are very appreciative of the scholarship, and we interviewed them one at a time on NewTrax, and I think you saw how dynamic these guys are, how intelligent they are, and that they are passionate about model railroading, even though they're very young adults. So we want to encourage this. We want to encourage you to make a donation to the NewTrax Mentoring Scholarship. There's several ways you can do that. One is to simply go onto our website and find the links, and you can make a digital donation directly from your checking account. It's all tax deductible. You can write a check, and I don't know if you guys have my producers, if you have that PowerPoint slide on that, Phil, maybe? But you can write a check made payable to New Tracks Mentoring Scholarship to my home address. I'm the treasurer of the scholarship fund. And remember, if we just do the math, yeah, here we go. Thank you. And leave this up for a moment. So you can scan this code and you can make a deposit through Zephy. It's all tax deductible. Or you can write a check, make it out to New Tracks Modeling / well, you don't need to have my name on there, just the address, and we'll deposit it for you. If we do the math, each show gets between 300 and 400 visitors, views. If each person did $5 or $10, that would be anywhere from, I don't know what that is. Each show would be, each donation between $3,000 and $5,000. Now, the other thing we do is the magazine, and the magazine has approximately 10,000 subscribers. If each one of those subscribers put in $1, that would be 10,000. $5 would be 50,000. $10 would be 100,000. I mean, the numbers are just astounding. And we'd like to do two things this coming year in 2026. We're going to try and consolidate all these platforms into one entity. We're working on that with our Jeff Jordan. I don't know if it's possible, but that means all the monies that we generate through YouTube and through the other platforms will go to the scholarship, minus the nominal expenses we have to produce these things. The second thing is that everything will continue to be tax deductible, and we'd really like to expand not only the number of scholarships, but the size of the scholarships. So if you would take a moment right now to write down that address, if you'd like to make a check donation, or scan this code, or take a picture of this code for Zephy and make your donation after the show, but we sure would appreciate it. Okay, so now I'd like to begin the show, assuming Kevin Hunter is on board. Is Kevin here this evening?
Hi.
Hi, Kevin. If we could spotlight Kevin Hunter. There we are. Hi, Kevin. Welcome to the show.
Thanks.
Kevin runs Touch Toggles. He calls it Barrett Hill. Before we jump into the products and things, why don't you tell us how you got into this? Where's the Barrett Hill come in? And
Well, Barrett Hill is the name of our house.
Okay.
It was built in 1888, so we've occupied it for a third of its existence now, but which is about 40 some years. Anyway, I have bounced all over, but the common thread in my life, all the businesses I've done, but generally the thing that has fascinated me is human interface to machines and everything. I like to create environments. I was a builder for many years, and then joined forces with a close friend to run a computer company, and I did most of the human interface, the on-screen representation. At some point during that company, the web happened, and so we became a web company because we were doing it the hard way before that. And after many years, my eyes were going to become permanent rectangles, so I took off to build layouts and help people with trains. And one day, one of my customers, I was getting tired of hauling very large amounts of layout around. And one of my customers, when I was replacing an updated control panel, said, "Now that when you're done, I want to talk about adding a track right here." And so I had a 2-hour ride home in the middle of the night And by the time I got it home, I had developed touch toggles as a concept. And a mere 6 years later, it came out as a product. So, but uh, the computer work at that point was pretty far behind me, and I part of developing it was trying to figure out why I shouldn't do it, and I couldn't come up with a good reason because it was a pretty neat idea. So anyway, it's taken off, and I'm forever adding little things to the concept. So the touch toggles themselves are the control, and they involve this device, and which is the human interface part, and everything else is just to support that. It's a finger support system. And go ahead.
One thing I want to say before we delve into the actual products, as I made a promise to myself 3 years ago when I downsized my house and had to tear down my original rustic buff layout, that the new rustic buff would use the very best of anything. The premise was no compromises. And for years, I saw the little ad with the control panel all lit up, and I always thought, boy, that looks sort of Star Trek-ish and looks pretty sophisticated. So I personally pursued it 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago. And before we begin, I just want to give you a personal plug. I mean, this stuff is so well engineered, it basically all snaps together with no need of understanding for electronics, circuitry, even electricity. It is virtually foolproof the way it goes together. And the control panels, if you have any skills with PowerPoint, you can make something that looks right off a movie set. So with that little introduction, let me switch to our PowerPoint, and then you can narrate that. So
Well, they say if you make something truly foolproof, the world will create a better fool.
that's probably why it works with me.
Well,
So,
I'm a good test subject too, because when it comes to using things, I believe in percussive realignments from time to time.
we'll talk our way through this, but
Sure.
you're on. So go
Okay.
ahead.
Well, this is a typical very small system. This is set up for this base would support four tortoise machines. Obviously, the tortoise is pretty common, but we have bases for just about any kind of turnout motor or on-off switch, so they can be used with all kinds of accessories and track control and things like that. Um, the toggle is the little rectangle off on the far left there, and the base in the middle provides power both to the toggles and to the that's a slide-on adapter. On the other side, it's an old one. The new ones look a little different. And so and you just tighten a screw down on the wires to connect them. So there's no solder anywhere in it. The toggle itself, and it's not too simple to see there, but there's little 3-pin connectors across the bottom of that. And so they just plug right in. If you're familiar with servos, we use the same cables as most little model airplane servos. Anyway, the toggles themselves are usually just stuck to the back of your graphic, whatever it is, with scissors and tape, as it says, and usually just stuck in a small picture frame. And I don't know if you made this, Tom, or if this is Tom's.
Yeah, this is just a picture frame from it literally costs like $8 or less.
Right.
Um,
Comes with glass, which works fine,
yeah.
and a piece of paper. And here, there's no special accommodations. The light just shines through the paper, where it's convenient. Usually you put a piece of sticky double-faced tape on the toggle and move it around behind the paper until it is where you'd like it, and you just squish it to the paper. After all the parts are on, you put it in the frame. Usually we recommend a little piece of quilt batting, little fluffy material about a half an inch thick, be cut behind that, and it holds the paper and all the toggles tight to the front of the picture frame, and then the back goes on just to hold everything together. Makes it really easy to get in and work on, and everybody wants to add a track, or change something or tear down their layout and start again. So all of the parts are solid state. They have no moving parts. They're easy to reuse. And as I said, everything just plugs together, so you can unplug it just as easily. Anyway, and so
I mean, literally, if you wanted to add a spur to this, for example,
normally you just print it out again with the spur.
Redraw your PowerPoint, buy another switch, tape it on the back, and business. I mean, on a conventional powers, like the old-fashioned toggle switches, oh my God.
Drilling and fitting and working around all your delicate wiring.
Yeah, it's just crazy.
Not fun. This is the modern base for the tortoise machines. It's very slightly bigger, but other than that, it's just the same. You can see this has 8 output pairs across the top and 8 toggle connections at the bottom and a barrel connector. So most folks just buy a small wall wart. We have these for sale, and just plug it in and turn it on. The barrel connector makes sure you can't cross wire anything. So that's why it's the primary connector. And you can also see there's a little red thing sticking out one side, and that's a little socket on the other side. The red thing is just a little protector for a pair of pins. And so if you have multiple bases, you can plug them into each other side by side, and it makes for a very neat and simple installation. So you only need to have one power plug for a number of bases together. Okay. And Tom threw together this PowerPoint, so I'm reading along with you. Wait, let me go back just a sec. Right, we have momentary toggles as well. We call them momentary anyway, they have a yellow light and they operate like a doorbell. They're not, of course, normally used for turnouts, but they're very handy if you're trying to activate an accessory or something. This is a direct base. We have relay bases, which have on-off circuits for track and power. And then we have other bases for different kinds of twin coil and various other switch machines. We have a new one just really for the old NJ machines, the antique monsters that seem to never die. They just hang around. So it has a lot of extra kick. That is just coming out. Anyway, so and lots of little tidbits that give you extra capability, simple route control, more complex route control, and so forth. Thanks.
One thing that I did, Kevin, is across the top there. If you have a crossover track that has 2 turnouts, you can actuate a single touch toggle switch that'll throw both turnouts simultaneously the correct way. I have those all over my layout, and it keeps you from wanting to do a crossover and having one of the switches foul the locomotive, because they work in unison. Yeah.
And we have different machines have different requirements for that, but we can cover them all. So the crossovers and so forth. And here's a close-up of a 2-light toggle. This toggle would kind of move. They're 2 lights about 3/8 of an inch apart. And and so you'd have one light that's either green or red in 2 different locations. So usually this is used to indicate which track you've chosen. We have it in red green. We also have this one in green and green, which showed up when people have a whole lot of controls on one panel. The red kind of starts to become confusing. So if you have a huge switch yard, it's easier just to follow the lights. Right. This mentions the yellow push buttons, which act like a doorbell. And we have all of these in the mini cup version, which mounts in a 1-inch hole in the fascia. And it's recessed not very far, about a 1/4 inch, but that's enough to keep it from tripping when you bump up against the fascia. So it's protected against false triggers.
How I use those mini cup touch toggles is when there's not really a justification for a control panel.
Right.
On the fascia, I just drill that 1-inch hole right near the turnout, use the single LED, the one that's pictured there, and green is through and red is off, and it's very intuitive.
A lot of them are used for what I call the lonely crossover.
Right.
Way out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah. And the picture above, those are the ones that would go in the back of a piece of your PowerPoint and the glass. There are 2 different ways, either single LED that'll light up green or red, and then the picture before is a dual LED.
I think you've got more pictures further on in use. Now that's the back of your panel.
That's correct. Now I've already changed this once, and it literally took, I want to say 5 minutes. It takes more time to draw the PowerPoint than it does to wire his system. That's how simple his system is. There's more time in the PowerPoint than anything else.
You also notice there are no numbers on any of the wires, because as you plug them in, they light up and tell you exactly what you've got in your hand. So you plug it in somewhere and you go, oh, this goes over here, and you just continue on through. And it's much faster than trying to write anything down. You just whip through it very quickly.
And this is where you would put that batten behind this, and then you'd put in the cardboard. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that does press everything, believe it or not, very evenly against the glass.
Right. We spent literally years trying to figure out the best solution. And when somebody pointed out, just using this quilt fluff, it was time to leave a dent in your forehead. You go, oh yes, of course. And it's so much easier.
It really works. Yeah.
We actually had the first terminal to socket adapter, and that's the picture there on the left. There are now like 5 different copies, Aculites and all these others. But at the time, I I was still building layouts when I developed that, and I was doing research for the touch toggles, and said, well, heck, I'm making PC boards. Let's just whip this out. You can see how it fits on the tortoise there in the middle. And then we also make a powered tortoise adapter, which is shown. We used to call it a direct base, but that got very confusing. So it's now just referred to as the powered tortoise adapter, which is a little more sensible. It's very durable. It can be run from DCC, so it's very popular with, I say powered with DCC. It doesn't operate on DCC, but the fact you can draw power from the DCC line means it's really handy for modules and so forth. Yeah, well, this is that's actually an early out of production relay base we happen to pick up there, but they're not that dissimilar. We have 2 across and 4 across relay bases, and now they all have all little red and green indicators to let you see what they're doing while they operate.
So
The base,
give them an idea what you'd use a relay base for.
sure. Yeah, we call them real switch relay bases now because a lot of newer users don't know what a relay is, but it's an electromagnetic switch. So it's an actual moving contact switch, which means it doesn't care what's going through the switch. So anything up to 240 volts, um, track power, house power, up to 10 amps, which is certainly enough to light a room, whatever, but they can also handle switching, contacts. A lot of times, we have people want to start up Lionel accessories and they're designed to have a great big push button to operate them. Well, a relay would give you those contacts from our electronic system. So they're a good interface. They're also what you would use to turn off tracks, say around a turntable, or if you wanted to have storage tracks, you could turn off the power and cut the load on your DCC system, or just street lights, things like that. 2 relays together can operate a turntable with left and right toggles. So it's very open. There's a lot of examples on the website of how they might be used. And I get questions every day that, talk about, that people come up with new uses for things like this. We have a servos control system, 4 across or 8 across, and that's what's on the bottom picture. All these bases are pretty much the same size. The servo base right now is in transition. There's a new design, but it's been very busy this summer. So the servo has been kind of sitting on the back shelf for a little bit, but it's a very handy system. And people that have servos sometimes use Tam Valley. There's a new one from Digitrax. And we have operators that control those systems as well. So there's a lot of options when it comes to servos. Yeah, and we have a matrix controller that lets you touch one track and it lines all the switches for that track. The original controller controls up to 8 tracks and they can be daisy chained. We have a new device called the Matrix Element, and the Matrix Element is it can't do all the tricks that the larger controller 8 can do, but it allows you very quickly to set up a ladder, and there's no real setup to it. You connect them with little jumpers, one to the next, and they give you the same result with in a very simple thing that's duplicated on each of the turnouts. So there's just a little widget. We have some pictures of things like it further on, and they can be used together. So if you need a matrix control, but you need 9 tracks or 10 tracks, you can add a couple of tracks with the little add-in. The universal translator is supposed to be just that. It works with all the normal DCC decoders. They have to have a push button input for it to be able to request to flip the direction. It's also it's also universal because it had to be made to run with a reverse polarity because Digitrax uses a different polarity than everybody else. Anyway, and it also gets information back from the DCC controller so that the attached toggles are always up to date with the actual position. So if you throw the switch with a DCC command, the toggle changes color immediately. So I'm used to having a chorus of questions. So
We'll have them at
we'll
the
get to that. We have I've had a follower, it's not shown here. It's called a pulse follower. It was originally designed to either take, well, to take input from sensors of any sort, block detectors or whatever. And a block detection on one side of a switch, for example, would throw the switch to that direction. So an incoming train from one leg of a, say, reverse loop would throw the switch to let the train pass, even, when it was oncoming after going around the loop. And likewise, a sensor on the other track would throw it the other way. Along that line, the reverse follower is a newer device. It's very similar, but it pays attention to the polarity of a automatic reverser. So it means you don't need the sensors. The automatic reverser is doing that for you. And so these things plug in between the base and the toggle, and the toggle works normally until the train essentially makes a request. We have, well, I'll mention it. We have in the works a sensor to add to that would, and it's going to be really nice and easy to install and to retrofit into an existing track situation. So the the third light indicator really should be on a second page, but it lets a 2-light red green, for example, become a 3-light green red green, so that if you have the crossover that Tom mentioned, the normal indication would be a green on both main lines, and the crossover indication would be a red in the middle between the two main lines. So it gives a much easier to read application. A lot of people use a single light and just stick it in the middle of a crossover, and if it's red, it's crossed over. So this is just an alternative view, but they're pretty nice. I have one here I can show you in a minute. Yes, we sell extensions. We had to have them made up to 5 feet long because very few model airplanes have a 12-foot wingspan or more. But anyway, so obviously, and they can actually be used for over 100 feet, but I got bored of testing, laying out 100 feet of wire to test them on. The toggles, every toggle has a voltage stabilizer inside it. So it's quite immune to noise and other kind of distractions. The Y-track adapter is one of several small adapters we have, but it allows you, in the case of a Y-track adapter, it lets you point to one side of a Y and it clears the switches for that side. And so these are, it's much easier than trying to figure out which switches need to go which way. And so they're quite popular for that. We have them for a center passing sighting that the Union Pacific used quite a bit. We have, God, they elude me. Anyway, a number of these simple situations where you're just trying to do something a little more easily. And so they're all very similar. They plug between the toggle and the base, and most of them cost less than $20. So, they give you a lot for very little. Oh, we have a 3-way switch controller, which I've seen systems with 3-way switch controls that are $150. Ours cost $15. And you just pick which track you want, and it operates the switches, and it operates them sequentially so they don't have the points clashing into each other, which is the famous thing for a multi-point three-way.
Kevin, what's that yellow? What's the differentiation there? Why is that one yellow?
The yellow is the momentary,
Okay. All
and
right.
it has a yellow light. The green is the green, and
Yeah.
we color them more for us here, so we don't get them mixed up.
What is more popular, on the right-hand side, the single LED that goes two different colors, or the
Oh, the single LED and the red green two light are by far the top two. And I do not get into the middle of that because it is a religious argument. So
is the single LED more popular than the dual LED, or no?
yeah, they're about even.
And do most people build a control panel or use the individual cups?
By and large, it's especially people with a lot of them use the panels.
Yeah.
There are some, I'm a narrow gauge guy, so my switches are far apart in general, but I would still build a panel for any small industrial area or switching setup. Even if it's just a few switches, it's much easier if you can see what you're doing.
Yeah, it avoids confusion. Yeah.
If everything is like on the main or off the main, two lights are kind of ridiculous. Green is clear and red is to the side,
Yeah.
The Mon-Pa Railroad, which was a narrow gauge near us in Maryland, I looked at the entire track layout, and I almost every passing siding was a single-ended passing siding, so they would back out. They didn't have, they had a few turnouts in towns for to drop off cars, but most of their stuff was just less than carload stuff dumped on the platform. So it's kind of ridiculous to have a lot of two light indicators for that. But that is actually the panel that inspired this. This is the panel that the guy said, I want to add another track. So
that's the panel that inspired me.
Yeah. And he's chosen a very interesting thing. He had a hard time communicating this, and you can see those are double slip switches. And because he loves passenger stuff. So this is a big passenger station. And so what he said was green is horizontal and red is diagonal. Which, I mean, I did that too. I just shook my head when he said it. And then he said, yeah, but you can explain it. You just can tell people that and they understand immediately what's going on, because all of his panels have exactly that. They're horizontal or diagonals. So I couldn't fight him on it. He's also got, you can see he's got these little green kind of indications of what the options are. It never made a lot of sense to me, but the point of this is that the graphic representations of what this is supposed to look like are everybody has an opinion. And so it's kind of nice. The little orange oval in the back kind of ties everything together so you can see it's a single switch operating. I should mention, just because we have a large audience, double slip switches scare people. And I've been asked to create an adapter for double slip switches. And what they would look like is two toggles would go in and they would cross each other and come out. There would be no electronics. There would, be made of wire. But the secret to a double slip switch is the indication is on the frog end and the points are on the point end. So you have to connect the left indicator and toggle to the right turnout motor and vice versa. And it drives people crazy until they do it. And then they say, oh, I guess that just works. So If anybody needs help with a double slip switch, I'm happy to chat. Oh, and that's the back on
Yeah.
your panel. Yeah,
So you just let the wires come out the bottom or top, and
right. And then discover what they are.
yeah, no, you don't even need. I mean, that's the other. You don't even need to label them. You just plug them in and
Mhm.
lights up, and then you put it in the right. I mean, it's a 5 minute job. It's just amazing. Big fan of this stuff.
Well, what's next? We've got people champing at the bit, I think. Um, oh yes.
I hope
Uh,
that's still true. The free shipping. I caught that in the website.
yes, it's over a certain limit. It may have to go up a little bit soon. I don't know but yes, larger orders are free shipping. And because we're small enough, if you're not from Maryland, then there's no tax on the sale.
And that's your ad in the new Tracks Modeler digital magazine, free ad that we
Ooh,
provide, created by moi.
right. So, yep.
Just a couple more slides and we'll be done here.
Yeah, this is actually a very common thing, a very small intersection, and everybody walks around now. So you have little tiny panels all sprinkled all over the place is a much more sensible way to run it. And you're actually there. You can uncouple cars and stuff without any trouble. Um, yeah, I love animation, so I'm working on animation stuff. And that's all I need to do is open a new can of free time.
Yeah. Look how slick this looks with a picture frame. I mean, it
Mhm.
literally looks like it's something out of a television show, if you ask me. Except for the screws, I should have did a better job than the wood screws. But,
I've 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 designed brackets to hold this out like that at an angle.
yeah,
So far, I've had a number of working models, but I want to make something that both works and looks good and is affordable. So they've been a little elusive.
I
I've
do.
go ahead.
I do
Well,
want to point out that Phil Edholm pointed out that instead of having this sticking out like this, I could recess it into the void there, and then
yeah,
you would run into it. So I'm going to do that. My next panel is instead of having, it'll be the same angle, same everything, but it'll be flush with the fascia. You know,
and the only reason I don't normally talk about that is that it requires people to do way more planning.
yeah, exactly. Well, after you've run your arm into this a few times, you.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah. I have done some of these with magnets
Yeah,
holding
that
the
has magnets, but it wasn't holding.
right. And there's also there's some I'm trying to French they're a form of French cleat. They're manufactured metal cleats, and they have a flat tab that fits behind a little buckle. And they're really a great way to hang these things because they're very, very strong, and they have a strong pull-out resistance. So, and unfortunately, with certain international trade arrangements, it's become a little hard to source them. So
I don't know if that's your discount code or not, but we talked about a
it
nominal.
is now.
I love having input on your company.
Yeah, I about a half an hour before this started, I jumped in to add the discount code, and somebody or something was banging was they were trying to break into my site,
Really?
and it had locked me out because there were too many false logins,
All
and
right.
that's
Well,
why I use 14 character passwords. But
so if you like what you see, you can get a little discount to get you
yeah,
started here. And
And I set that up for a month. So
there you go.
that'll be good for a month.
I
And
have a question. Do they make N
please.
scale? And I did not see none of your parts are composed for N scale. They're just
Yeah.
HO and bigger.
No, it's I've got Z scale people using them too.
Okay,
We have a
that's all I need to know.
bipolar base that's good for Rohan and for Kato, which is obviously the big one for N scale. And all of our, we call them snap machines because, you know, they operate on a magnetic push pull. And oof, there we go. Let's not knock the confuser over. But
No, I'll reach out to you later.
sure. Well, they're just referred to as two-wire snap action bases or snap bipole bases is what they are. The way they work, just for general information, is the Atlas machines have 3 wires, so you activate across one wire in the center to go left and the other wire in the center to go right. Kato machines and some of the Japanese machines have a magnet and it pushes and pulls against the magnet. So one direction of DC current opens it and one direction closes it. So they look just the same, but they have 2 wires. And they a fortunate thing, I guess, for me is that Kato switches are hideous. So not the turnouts, but the control switches for electric control. And so I have a lot of people that are looking for an option that isn't that.
Good. Are there any questions for
Yeah.
Kevin?
Yeah.
Kev,
this is Bob. You might want to mention too that the touch toggles are compatible with TTL logic, so that you can run an Arduino with them.
Right. If you can plug them, well, there's a shield made for Arduinos that gives you 3 pins for every pin that is plus minus and the active pin. And with that shield, you can direct plug touch toggles directly into an Arduino board with no soldering, no hardware. It's just, you know, just works.
Mm-hmm.
There's a white paper on the front page someplace on our site that is using touch toggles with your own electronics. They're trivial to use as just an on-off input, but it is possible to control the light color, you know, the indications separate from the touch, and that gets more sophisticated. So give me a call if you have questions.
Kevin, this is Steve Sherrill. If someone comes to you who is planning a layout and said, can you help me with the wiring? Are you available for consulting?
Well, there's a reason that I moved to a thing that I can put in a 3.5-inch bag and just mail to you. So certainly for consulting, I really did try to make it so simple that it didn't need any hands-on. But certainly I consult with people all the time. People call me up and they say, well, I've never dealt with this kind of system before. And the answer is there is no other kind of system like this. So I assume everybody's never worked on it before. And so it's mostly a matter of marrying up the right, you know, my base with your machine. And there are a couple, we've got solutions for just about everybody. But I mean, as I said, we've got a new one that's a high-powered snap board for the old coil machines. Oh, here. Reaching over to the side, you know, that thing. This was made by NJ, but they were labeled. This one says PFM. This is Pacific Fast Mail. Had this branded for them. But these things take a wallop of juice to operate. They have a great big spring. You can see the spring here, and it rocks this I'm trying to keep an eye on the screen, but it rocks this big rocker, which moves the piston. The piston moves the rocker, and the rocker does an end over with his spring. And it takes some oomph to get that to work. So I built kind of a hopped up version of our snap action base that will operate these just fine. Although I did have a guy said, well, mine's not working right because I use 26 gauge wire. And I was like, you can't do that. But yeah, we recommend 18 gauge wire for most of the snap bases because they deliver 2 or 3 amps of current when they're operating. It's very short, and we use electronics to shut. The switching is done with a transistor, so it's on in an instant and off again. And so even the very delicate, like the little Caboose switches that don't need much power, they're fully protected. They never see enough time to warm up, or you can't melt the wires. You can't have a problem like that. So that's a when you go from Atlas switches to transistor driven and microcontroller controlled unit, it's going to protect you. Those old Atlas sliders never could, and it'll never hum, it'll never catch fire. And all these old switches become very civilized and just work. So yeah, give me a call anytime you want, Steve.
I'm all manual, but I know that I've seen you at the shows where people come up to you, and I was just wondering, I'm sure they present you with a piece of paper with a little track,
Sure.
and they say, hey, what am I going to need for this?
But,
and I see you conversing with them, and talking to them and selling your product.
I often have a hard time saying how many switches and you need that many toggles. It's like there are a couple of extra options that simplify or do the crossover, like Tom said, and there are slight differences from one type of machine to another. These high energy machines need a little bit of extra, compared to the tortoises are very low energy, so you can just play around with them a lot.
How about the old Atlas Snaptrack switches?
Yeah, they let's see. I mean, this one's got the terminals off of it, but this is a typical base. This one is for Kato type machines, and I've taken the terminals off here, but the terminals are loose like this, and they go on these pins. They're removable so that you can mount this under your layout and then realize that you've got an impossible place to get your screwdriver. And then you can just pull the terminals off and wire this in your hand. So that's got the screws in it. So you can connect all your wires to this and then just push it back on the base. I've collected stuff like that that's hardware that I just love. So it ends up in the product. But there's a little capacitor there. And what happens is this charges up the capacitor and delivers the pop of electricity to the coil and then immediately turns off. And so that's why it's so safe to use. The capacitive discharge unit that's in this was developed in about 1950 for a manual version, and I've put a microcontroller on it so that you used to have to wait till the light came back on after firing it so that you could see it was ready to go again. And I said, well, that's silly. We have machines that can wait for you. So if you push 2 toggles on this machine at once, it'll fire one and then recharge and then fire the other. and there's only a second or so to recharge it, but you'll actually hear the switches go click, click, click as they're recharging. And so anyway, yeah, I say we do the electronics so you don't have to, it's
Yeah.
try to keep it as simple as possible. And so
Any,
go ahead.
any other questions for Kevin before we wind this up?
I'm sure I can be tedious with everybody.
I just want to say again how easy this stuff goes together and how well engineered it is. Elegance is achieved in engineering, not on how complicated you make things, but how simple you make things to put together doing complex tasks. And this is quite elegant in design, literally falls together one way. And
I've got just a couple other things, if you don't mind.
go ahead.
Really quick. These are little things that they've shown up in the last year or so. This guy, camera's up here. This guy is a little, you can just barely see it. It's a little adapter. There you go. And it plugs onto a Walters switch machine.
Okay.
So, and then it has two plugs up here, sets of pins up here for toggles. So you can use one or two toggles to operate a Walters machine. Their system for push buttons involves 3 drills, templates, and all kinds of funny stuff. So this will let you plug in just one of our fascia mount toggles. Oh, let's see. The fascia mount toggles weren't very clear, but there's one of our fascia mounts. We have them with 1 light or 2 lights, but that just has the regular pigtail on it. All the toggles have a 1-foot pigtail, but then we also have extension wire, so you can go as far as you want.
What kind of price are those?
This guy, I think $11 for this. The standard toggle is like 8 something. They also come in 4-packs, which makes them cheaper. And we have packages which are a base and the appropriate number to fill that base. That makes them even cheaper yet. So, this didn't get mentioned, but this is a very popular product. I just left it in the bag. But and this is the form. When I say little widgets that plug in, this plugs into the base, and the toggles plug in here, and it's got a little foot in there so you can, and a hole so you can mount the thing, and it's sturdy. And this has extra pins up here, you can see. So this allows you to plug up to 3 toggles into one input, and they all work at the same time. So you touch any one of them and they all turn red, touch any one of them and they all turn green. So this is a real problem solver for a lot of people. If you want to have toggle, complete control panel on both sides of your layout, or both, whether it's the whole thing or just 1 or 2 switches that, are in between 2 panels and you want them to be on both panels, it's very easy to do that. Let's see. There was one. Well, I'll mention it, although I don't think there are a lot of Lionel people here. But we have Lionel makes a product that makes the touch toggles go berserk. So it's great fun. Throws all the switches underneath the train. So I created, this is the mini cup version of this, and there's the camera, but there's an actual push button and 2 LEDs. The LEDs are in sockets, so they can actually be changed. You can move them around. You can put bicolor LEDs in, all this different stuff. But the little circuit board on this is a plug that just plugs into our system. So extension cable comes up to this plug, and you can actually have a completely mechanical push button board. if the touch toggles didn't work, I had to make a mechanical touch toggle. So this is our push button toggle. And, but it's very flexible, and some people want the tactile characteristic of the push button. So, so anyway, there's that. And this can be used with all of our matrix controllers and all the little extra widgets. You can imagine that in the multi-input adapter alone, that to have them all change, you have to be able to overwrite the color on some of the toggles while they internally think they're still red, they're showing green, and vice versa. So anyway, all that's built into a little chip on this board. And anyway,
I've got one more question.
Please.
Now that we're doing the micro layouts,
Oh yeah,
which are battery powered controllers, can we use battery on your products to control them?
you can. It's
Or maybe you can make
certainly go ahead.
New product.
No, you just need it's 12 volt in, if I recall. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you have 12 volts of battery power, it's trivial. They just work.
Some of these guys bring car batteries. Some of them,
Right.
You could do a blister pack of
And
1.5 volts.
you don't have to hit the nail on the head. So if you had 3 lithium batteries stacked, you'd have 12.5 volts or something. It will work just fine.
But you could put a battery box separate, right? With separate
Oh,
control.
sure.
Yep.
Sure.
That'd be the thing to do, probably.
Yeah.
But it would work.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
And I carry a 9-volt battery on a pigtail so that I can actually operate, some of the gear. It's not quite enough to throw the relays because they need most of the 12 volts to operate. But they'll run a tortoise just fine. And as I say, when you get into specific applications, there may be some things work better than others. But if you wanted to turn on LED lighting, for example, you could easily do that with a direct base, and that would work just out of the box.
Okay.
We sell a little barrel adapter. We use barrel connectors so that you can't just fry the board by not looking at it. But we sell a barrel adapter that connects to wires. You probably have a bunch of them sitting around, Steve. But anyway, it allows you then to wire it to any kind of wiring system.
Yeah.
I use one on mine. Well, thank you, Kevin.
Sure.
It's a terrific presentation, and hope everybody likes the idea of using touch toggles. They really are well engineered.
A little spooky doing this without audience participation. Usually I get cat calls. Everybody was so quiet.
Well,
anyway,
maybe it's the summer doldrums. Well, thank you again, Kevin, and we'll have you on again, and look forward to seeing you in person at the next show you're at.
Yeah, I realize that you're looking at my lab, and those are all the bins of stuff that I might put together someday up in the corner.
Well, there's always something new coming out of your workshop, so that's terrific.
Yeah, I've got it going up the walls, as they say. So,
well, thanks again. Okay.
Sure.
Well, next up, we're going to do a little thing on with Phil. Let me look here. Oh, sorry. Get my first. We're going to do a new tracks watch me build, or new tracks my build video, and then we'll go to the next program. So if we could play that video, I'd appreciate it. Yep.
Don't miss the monthly New Tracks Modeling My Build event. My Build is where the modelers of New Tracks show what they have been building. See amazing modeling with some My Builds featuring specific topics for modeling. If you would like to have your models included in the My Build, Please email your modeling photos to Chris Course at railrunner130@hotmail.com. If you are a first-time My Build participant, please include a photo of yourself.
And now I'd like to have a few words from Chris Course, the segment manager of the My Build.
Well, thanks, Tom. All right. Let's see the upcoming My Builds. I forgot to take out July. The next one is August 20th. It's I'm sorry that I forgot. I'm too behind. All right. The next challenge is September 24th. It's backdrops. Your submission deadline for that is September 21st. So whatever you've got that could fit into the backdrops category, please send me an email with those photos in it. And then we're going to do the Halloween and oddities again in October. So that'll be another challenge. So the submission deadline for that is October 19th. Or if you don't have anything that fits in those categories, just go ahead and send it anyway. And we'll find a good day to put those in, whether it's an anything goes free for all or whether we sneak it in with the backdrops or the oddities. So anyway, if you have not participated before, please be sure to include a photo of yourself along with like a brief description. That way, if you either have trouble getting on, or maybe you can't make it, or perhaps maybe you're a little camera shy and you don't really want to talk about it, please include a description. That way I can talk semi-intelligently about it. But email those to me at railrunner130@hotmail.com to participate. And let's see, I will turn it back over to you, Tom.
Thank you, Chris. Again, this is one of our most popular segments and a good way to get on to New Tracks Live if you've never did a presentation. And you need only send your photographs to Chris. He'll put them in the PowerPoint. Include something about yourself. If you don't want to give the presentation yourself, put in some text and he'll give it. But in general, it's very easy to do. Give you a little exposure. Okay, next up, we're going to do a little open forum. It's going to be led by Phil Edholm, our producer. We're going to talk about potential segments on a variety of topics related to electronics and digital things. Phil, if you like.
Yeah, so this is kind of an intent to have a discussion about what's interesting. So, really for the New Tracks community and kind of a two-level thing. One, to talk about some topics and then decide where we should focus some presentation in the future. So what I want to do is show a little view here of a number of, call them for lack of a better word, electronics topics for model railroaders. And what you can see is that these are actually laid out in some major categories. I don't know, and again, comments about how this is structured are more than welcome. So started with the thought process says there's DCC, and then there are layout electronics that are more general than DCC. Then there's layout control. So kind of three categories around how you build a layout and what the electronics are that go into it, and the electronics for locomotives, etc., in terms of DCC. And then there are three additional topics that could be interesting: dead rail, lighting, and finally wiring, because there are a lot of interesting wiring options now with things like Cat5, etc. So done is try to put inside of these some kind of major categories and some subcategories. So for example, in terms of locomotives and cars, you've got decoders, keep alive sound modules, how to do installations, those kinds of things. DCC control systems, the pieces of those. How do you put a DCC control system together? What are the different options for that? Then there are a whole bunch of other items that you can use if you're building a DCC layout to actually manage how that layout operates. For example, one of the things is a frog juicer. Then there are, the automatic reversers, there are accessory decoders for things like turnouts and other things on your layout. Then there's automation or animation features. There's the capability of doing automation with things like a mini panel from NCE. And then there's the whole area of programming. How do we program? So one of the questions is, of those kind of DCC areas, and this is really throwing open to anyone to comment. You can do it in the chat if you don't want to talk. Are there topics there that are interesting that you'd like to hear about from both the perspective of people that have done it, but maybe also from vendors that provide products that fit there? Kind of a lot like we did today with touch toggles. So because I'll open up the question, are there any, if we kind of look down that list of DCC topics, are there things there that you as a group would like to have someone come in and talk to? Or is this electronic stuff just totally boring?
Hey, Phil, this is Jeff. I'll throw one out. I would love to hear somebody do some more instruction in plain language on using JMRI. I went and invested in it, and I've never gotten it to operate satisfactorily. And I kind of put it aside when I started switching to Blue Nami decoders, which permitted me to program my decoders through my phone. And one of the features of JMRI being that, textual programming a decoder became unimportant. But it also has a number of other features, including building a catalog of or inventory of your equipment, and also actually operating the layout. And I haven't a clue on how to get that to work.
Yeah, JMRI actually has different pieces that go in different places. One is obviously programming decoders. There's Panel Pro for laying out panels and essentially managing through that CTC and those kinds of things. And then there is obviously the ways of laying out your equipment, and then you can actually do operations as well. There's an operational element to it. So that's an interesting. So is that of interest to folks? Kind of you throw showing your hands, is spending some time on JMRI something that would be interesting to folks?
What exactly? What is it? I don't even know what.
Well, JMRI is a Java-based model railroading interface package. It works essentially in two different ways. It works with DCC to allow you to program locomotives, etc., but it also works through the CMRI interface to allow you to operate a layout. So it's got different components within it. So is that something that would be interesting? Maybe just an overview of JMRI and kind of what some of the components are.
It could be very limited. I don't know.
I have found the available instructions online not terribly instructive. The JMRI in the most basic sense, you take your laptop computer, you plug it into a box, and then that box connects to your layout or your programming track. And then there is a great deal of instruction about how to install the software in your computer and how to actually get the interface to work. And that's where it broke down for me, was the interface.
Which encoders would, that seems.
It comes in the software. There is a list of, I would guess, anywhere from 75 to 100 decoders. It will actually look at your decoder and tell you which decoder you have.
Right. So, so I think what I'm hearing, Jeff, are maybe a couple of issues. One is, how do you get JMRI working with DCC, which is necessary for running Decoder Pro is the name of the JMRI application that does decoder programming.
Correct.
So getting that working, I know, for example, different control systems, you have to buy different products to make that work and get it to work in the right way. And then I think the second question there is, how do you program a locomotive? What are the steps you go through? Might be interesting also. So it's a topic that, one of the things is we have a topic that people are interested in. We can go find someone who's willing to and knowledgeable and talk to it.
One question on this to the both of you. I mean, like my Digitrax system, if I want to go into the encoder mode, right, my handheld controller, I can go through and program anything. Why would I want to do this? Just to answer that one.
Because you're programming CVs individually.
Yeah.
In JMRI, it actually is a graphic user interface. So, for example, you go to a page that has sounds.
Oh.
And it has all the sounds that the decoder will play, and you can adjust the volume, or you can select, for example, you're running a Soundtracks decoder, they may have programmed in the decoder 12 different horns. To program that from your cab in a DCC system, what you typically have to do is you have to go look up the CV for the horns, which will be CV, 312. And then you have to program the number 12 for horn number 12. In GMRI, you go to the sound page and you just have a drop-down list that shows you the horns. You select the Leslie horn, and you can adjust the volume with a slider knob.
Well,
so the difference is doing individual programming versus being able to do it in a graphical user interface.
So how do you connect?
It completely eliminates the need to look up CV numbers or to program the CVs. It's all done graphically with, drop-down menus, click, and the sliders.
So how do you interface your computer with the encoder? How do you?
You got a box, a JMRI box that goes between your layout and your laptop computer.
And of course,
it depends on the control system you have. Some you can do it with USB. Some you have to use RS-232. For example, if you have a programming track and you decide to buy a Sprague, you connect the Sprague to the programming track, and you just plug a USB cable between the Sprague and your computer. And now when you run JMRI computer, it's automatically connected. And you can control the track, but you can also program a locomotive on the track as a programming track.
I think there'd be an interest if we got away from the acronyms and showed like how you interface the top 3 DCC systems with JMRI. That would be more. You guys are getting a little deep in the weeds, even for me.
So take it, Jeff. That's a good topic from just kind of the top, from a decoder, keep alive sound modules. I mean, that's a perspective that sounds like everyone feels pretty comfortable with on their own about, how you go through that process of deciding on a decoder, installing a decoder, what is a keep alive, why do you want to keep alive, all those kinds of things. Those are topics that sound like there's not a lot of interest.
Phil, just a couple of points here. One, there's 3 or 4 clubs I know automatically that use their whole layouts for the clubs with using this product. And NMRA OPSIG group has a great way of doing it now. If you reach out to them. Andy Zimmerman and Speed are both really great on this programming and all that. And then there's also an IO group that's about this with all the troubles and everything you can have. So there's a learning curve, but I'm so brand new. I don't have any of the old stuff. I started in 2017 and I picked it up real easy after one person sitting on top of me. So it sounds, when you talk about it, it sounds very confusing, but once you start doing it with a programming track and you have your Raspberry Pi and you plug it in to your computer, screen or any screen, it works fine. It's more complicated when you talk than actually doing it. But there's so many sources out there that help. So you don't get boggled down, like you're saying, with all these acronyms.
So what about other items like, frog juicers, reversers, accessory decoders, etc., the things that allow you to control turnouts, the switch hits, wabbits, those kinds of things. Are those things that people are interested in learning more about and finding out how to use them on their layouts?
That was the next one I was going to mention was the Tam Valley products like the frog juicer and the automatic reverser. I think they're remarkable. I just installed my first frog juicer to route the power for my three-way stub switch, and it works great. And it's amazing. It's simplified things considerably. And of course, the other big item it's useful for is reversing loops. And I don't know how many people are actually familiar with those products and whether they'd like to just be introduced to the remarkable things the frog juicer and the automatic reverser can do.
I think something on the frog juicers would be, I just also installed a bunch of them myself, and I found one of my installations was in conflict with the other, and I had to disconnect it, but I've had a discussion privately with Phil on it. We think we know what it is, but I think it'd be interesting to go over the frog juicers because you can literally put those in post having your layout up. So my layout, the half was fully installed. And just for people that don't know what a frog juicer is, if you have DCC, and you have like I had a Bachmann Mogul that kept stalling out on the turnout, and short of rewiring or the turnout, which was not an option at this point because it was ballasted in, I turned to the frog juicer and it worked beautifully. That locomotive no longer stalls on that turnout. So how to, on frog juicers, the why and how easy they are to put in. And then I did find a way to have a conflict with one just to go over that nightmare so that people don't have to relive my problem. I think that'd be interesting. Yeah.
Cool.
I think something else that'd be interesting, Phil, sorry to butt in, but I think keep alives to your decoders. How many here actually know how to add a keep alive to the decoder?
Yeah, that would be interesting too.
I would like to see how they do that because I've looked all over and nobody shows you how to do that.
That is an interesting discussion.
If you're not using a decoder that's like the Soundtrax decoders, which come with the sockets already built in, and if you buy a Soundtrax Keep Alive and a Soundtrax decoder, it's as simple as plugging it in. But it is entirely possible to add a Keep Alive to a decoder that is not equipped with a plug. And it's just a matter of knowing the right places to connect it to the decoder. Right. And you're right, there's not a lot of good information online on how to wire that.
Well, I think, a couple of things. There's, Seth Newman and I did a while back, and I can pull that up, maybe get him to come and talk about it. We did a thing on making your own Keep Alives, and he actually has a circuit that you can buy. And then there's a couple of places online where people have figured out the right points on decoders to go in and put that on, because you don't put it on the track power, you actually put it on the back side of the rectifier, which is built into the decoder. So you have to find the right buzz circuit. And that's actually what Soundtrax exposes on their decoders, on the little pin that you plug into.
Yes.
So it sounds like kind of all of those topics are pretty interesting. Circuit breaker boosters, control systems, the different options there. I mean, is that another area that would be of any interest? For example, if you look at buying a Sprague, you can buy a Sprague for $100. You can connect it to JMRI, and using Wi-Fi through JMRI and your computer, you can use your phone to run your layout. So for $100, you get complete DCC control, complete JMRI and programming and all of that. It only costs you $100. Tam Valley makes a 3/5 amp booster that just connects to the track power and gives you a 3 amp continuous 5 amp burst. So if you connect a couple of those to a Sprague, they're about $50 and the power supply is about 20. So basically for $250, you can have a 10 amp, two district DCC power system that has full functionality, but where you use wireless, either the wireless with your phone or with one of the handheld controllers as the control systems. So there's some interesting options there that we could talk about if there's interest. As some people are looking at DCC, sometimes when you look at it, that $500 for a starter system looks like a lot of money to start with.
That's why I put circuit breakers on mine, though, was so I wouldn't blow out a command unit or the booster. And I think if we could maybe I could get Tam Valley on.
Yeah, that's the idea, is to get some of these vendors on that fill in some of these. I just want to gauge what the interest level is. So what about layout electronics? So the other parts of the layout, right? Things like crossing systems, sound systems, turnout control. There's DCC, there's LCC, there's kind of traditional mechanisms. That's, to some extent, I would kind of put what we saw tonight into more of the traditional side of things. It's not directly interfaced with the computer. It's more of a, similar to what you'd have with a toggle switch, but done a little bit differently. And then, of course, there's a whole bunch of things happening around animation. The vehicle systems, the water simulation systems we saw and Arduino control. So are those areas, or any of those areas that people find interesting?
As a dead rail guy who's just starting to get his indoor layout built, what is this water simulation stuff? That looks really cool.
Yeah, there's a company called SEABOT, SEA-BOT, and they have a really interesting program. You actually use a television, and you put the television down with the screen up, and that becomes your water. And if you've got scenery out over the water, you can go into their program. You can program it so that there are simulated waves breaking on the scenery. And then they have a boat, and you can program a path, and the boat, which is battery powered, will follow the path on the water. So you can build kind of a harbor scene. So it's there are some very interesting products out there if you're looking to do certain things.
I'll say I would think a very basic introduction to Arduino would be very interesting.
Okay.
See, you hear a lot of references to it, but no kind of beginner stuff on what is an Arduino, what does it do, what can you do with it. I realize it's a small computerized circuitry switching, but people use it for lots of stuff, and I think an introduction to it would be great.
Cool. So another area is layout control. So in layout control, you have kind of your traditional CMRI, which this is the NMRA standard. Bruce Chubb built a bunch of products there. There are some Arduino, and not Android based, they're Arduino based. Sorry about that. That's a typo. Probably a correction by my spell checker. Model Railroad Control Systems does an Arduino based system. So these systems are designed to interface to JMRI and will control your layout for you. And then, of course, with that goes JMRI Panel Pro, which is how you lay your layout in how you lay out the way your layout works, and you can control it from a computer in the JMRI space. The other thing I find is a lot of people want to be able to do some form of detection. So you can detect when a locomotive is in a location, and you can do that with optical. You can do it with current detection. And you can even now do some things with RFID. So that would be another topic. LCC is a whole topic in of itself. Interesting topic and interesting discussion about where it applies. And then one other thing, I don't know if there's any interest in this. This is not a very American topic. There's a company called the Railroad Company in Germany that has an application called Train Controller, and they allow you to really automate your layout. So with this system, for example, if you've got a train on a track in a staging yard and you want to move it out to another track, another location, you can literally click on it and click where you want it to go, and the system will automatically move the train for you. It automatically set up all the turnouts and move the train from one location to another on your layout. And you can actually program it so it'll run your layout. They do a lot of this in Germany. So I don't know if that's another topic that's of interest.
What does LCC mean?
That's where DCC is digital command control, LCC is a layout command control. So it's designed to run your layout. It's a publish and subscribe model where you have small modules that talk to each other and actually can operate, on the layout. So, you can actually set up an operating scheme. It's a one level fairly simple, but another level incredibly complex solution for how you generate and control your layout. And then dead rail, obviously an area of interest. We've had a little bit of that with the DCC integration with things like what Soundtracks has done. They're what I call more the traditional standalone dead rail. One of the things that I think is very interesting is battery options, and then finally charging options. So, I think other areas might be interesting is dead rail, lighting. How do you do layout lighting? What are the options now for layout lighting with LEDs the way they are? There are some very interesting new layout lighting options. Structure lighting. What are the different ways you can do structure lighting? Other lights on your layout. Lighting really does illuminate and do things. And then finally, LED types. How do you deal with LEDs? Could be another topic. And then the last thing I put on here was wiring. I'm using RJ45 and Cat5 wiring. Makes it much easier to my mind than terminal blocks in a lot of ways. You just run a cable from your control system and you connect it to a panel and use punch down blocks to punch down the wires. So instead of having a lot of terminals, you just have punch down blocks. There are a lot of interesting new wiring connectors. The traditional suitcase connectors, there are Wago connectors, there are other, clamp connectors that are out there, and they provide interesting ways of wiring your layout. Some of those, like the Wagos, are great because, if you've wired something up, you can easily open a lever and pull a wire out if you're trying to find a short out on your layout. Makes layout troubleshooting a lot easier. I put in soldering here and relays just because one of the things I find is relays are an incredibly effective tool in model railroading, and a lot of people just don't understand what are the different options for using a relay. So this was kind of a thought process. I guess the question if I put together something that was kind of an online mail it out to the community form to fill out to mark things that you think you're interested in, would people be willing to take a few minutes and fill something like that out? Because I think what it does is allows us to focus on, finding people to present on topics and finding vendors to come in like we did tonight with Kevin and talk about their products.
I would, Phil. Phil, I think the two most important things out of all that list that you gave up there are soldering and layout lighting. The rest of that stuff is all after you get all that stuff done. We need layout lighting first. That's number one. Before you ever build a layout, you need to get the lighting correct.
Yep.
And number two, you will solder a lot more than you ever imagined. And everybody has been afraid of it at one time or another. If you could get those two topics as number one and number two, I think it would start the whole series for participation and interest.
Sounds good.
Yeah, I think we could easily do one on soldering, and lighting goes hand in hand with photography. We're talking about lighting the layout physically, not the structures, right?
Right, exactly. I think that's the deciding how you're going to light your layout, what technologies you're going to use based on how you build your layout, what the options are, would be an interesting discussion. I mean, that might be one where having people bring in what they've done might be very interesting as well. I think we have a lot of innovative modelers that probably have done great things.
Well, my layout is 25 years old. Right now, I'm trying to upgrade, so I'm going into the LEDs. My son-in-law is a master electrician, so I'll be able to get some help there. But I have, limited knowledge of the types of LED bulbs I should put in this to get the best looking reflection on my layout scenery.
Dennis
then there's,
Brennan's here. He's unmute yourself.
yeah, well, Dennis is unmuting. One of the key questions is the color,
Well, that's
level
what
you
I
use.
Dennis.
Yeah.
Dennis.
Yeah, if you go back, actually, if you go back on the YouTube pages, I did, I believe, 3 sessions a couple of years ago on layout lighting.
Oh,
We
well, we
talked
should
about
revisit that.
color temperature and color rendering and all that. So if you go back on there and find, I don't remember exactly when it was, but I will look it up now and share it on the chat.
Maybe you could come back, Bob, and update it a little bit for us.
Sure.
Yeah,
We've had a lot of new people on the show in the last 2 years.
And Dennis could do one on because
Well,
it ties into photography as well, the temperature.
Absolutely. Be glad to.
So
yeah,
between-
there are lots of new products too, almost always coming out in terms of some of these LED, strip lights that you can buy a roll of, 50 feet of light for $50 kind of thing and connect it up to a controller. And it's
Well,
not just color temperature anymore, it's actual different colors. You can make your layout purple now, I guess.
Well, yeah. But with all of this new technology, you really have to be careful to keep your color temperatures consistent. And I can't stress that enough. Now, LEDs run the gamut from warm to cool, right? One being more in the yellow orange and the other being more towards the blue. And you can use a consistent with all of the autos, color temperature correction and cameras and things. Most of them will do very well as long as you have a consistent color temperature, and you can easily look at that on the box. So I don't care if you're using can lights or you're using fluorescent lights or you're using LEDs. If you keep them in the same color temperature range, it should all work for you. However, I really will rail against using different types of lights. If you're going to use fluorescents, then keep it all fluorescent. Don't mix can lights and fluorescents, which a lot of people love to do that because they say visually that works better for them. Cameras won't see it that way. Your camera, unless you have a completely homogeneous mixture of the color temperatures, which is impossible, your camera is going to show some things one way and something else in the scene will look differently, a different color. And I have demonstrated that, and I've got a whole series. I've talked about this before. I have a whole series of pictures that I can show exactly what I'm talking about.
Cool.
So
Well, thanks everyone. I think that was kind of the feedback we're trying to look for a little bit. And like I said, we will put something together, kind of a bit of a survey and a place to fill out some interest levels, and hopefully that can get some focus on getting some presenters in and some vendors in to talk about products in these different areas.
I think there's some use in combination of reissuing Bob Davidson's. Maybe we do a remake of some of his stuff, and then some remake of or more learning with Dennis Brennan on tied into photography. And do we want to use what if you go to like a Home Depot or a Lowe's, or we have these Menards here, they sell them daylight, which are the real bright white, and then they have the I don't know what they call the yellow, but the warm. What do we want for our layouts? Do we want the bright white daylight, or do we want the warm, or is it a question of if you use, you don't want to mix them, that's for sure, but you use one or the other, and what's better? I think fluorescence there isn't such a thing anymore, really. They don't even sell them hardly, but it's all about the LEDs. And my old layout had halogens on there that burn hot and a lot of electricity. I replaced them with LEDs, and first round I had the amber and that didn't look right, and I used the daylights, and anyway, that would be interesting discussion,
Yeah.
So I'll call you guys individually to vamp you into a presentations. Yeah.
Yeah, and just let you
Whatever
know,
you need.
the Short Track Club in Vista, California, they replaced a lot of their lights, so it would be those Philips multiple color lights, and they program it from their phone. So when it goes into a rainstorm, the lights drop and they'll flash. Uh, they went to Home Depot to get the Philips lights that do that, or make it a night scene. They
Yeah.
keep it simple, just FYI.
Well, this could all be incorporated in a presentation. Phil, is there anything else we want to go over?
Yeah, I think the final thing, I think there was a question about, I assume that some, Mike, you asked about any chance the screen could be linked. I will put the screen up with those topics up as a PNG file in the chat here in a moment.
And this toured across the country for 3 years.
What was that? Okay. So, if we can squeeze in another, I think we should probably just wind this up. Do we want to squeeze in another segment, or should we just wind it up here?
Already up to you. You're the boss.
We could just continue talking what we're talking about.
Did I miss my substation?
No.
See, I got a question about lighting. Okay, even though we're not on this segment, I've got a 9-foot ceiling with can lights, and then I go into another part of the building, which is 8 feet. In the 9-foot section with the can lights, do I drop the wattage down, or what? This is the kind of thing that I'm faced with when I want to do upgrade my lighting. So I don't know.
Steve, is your can lights LED?
No. Yes, they are now. Yes.
Okay, well, I have that same thing. I have can lights in my ceiling all around the layout. And I got an electrician to get me a special controller handheld that I can dim it down to a certain level. Like there's 3 different ways I can do it. I can dim it down till it comes to an evening, or I can dim it down completely to shut it right off so I get the lights from my layout scenes. Or I have it so I can just push a button no matter where I'm at in the room. I can make the lights go up or down.
But are you using bright, sun, or what kind of basic bulbs are you putting in?
It's just straight whatever you got, and I guess you can get the cool whites, you get the warm white in your can light, but it's the normal lights that you usually get when you buy a can light with LED in it. I think it works good for me. I don't know it. Some people have seen it operate, so I don't. It's kind of neat when you're standing there and you just push a button, nobody's know where you're at, and all of a sudden the lights start going up and they go down.
The nice thing about LEDs now is that they are mostly dimmable.
Yeah.
But what's critical, you look at cool white or warm white or daylight. What you want to be looking at on the box is where it says color temperature. So color temperature of like 2200 is a warm white, 3000 typically is a cool white, daylight's going to be up at like 5000. And I'm happy to do a session again. It's all based on a scale of how metal glows when you heat it. So that's where you get the color temperature in thousands. Those are degrees Kelvin. So if you heat a standard metal rod to 5000 degrees Kelvin, it glows this very cool blue white. To what Dennis said, what's really critical is that you're consistent. So every light you have, and when we did the presentation, I said, as far as where you're building your models, the lighting should be the same as the lighting you have on your layout. The lighting in your paint booth should be the same as the lighting on your layout. Because you could paint something and think it looks great, you just sprayed it, you bring it over to the layout and it turns a different color. And that's when you get into color rendering. So yeah, I'd be happy to review that again with everybody. And I'm an old stage lighting person, so I used to do lighting in theaters and television. So that's how we learned that. So there's a lot to
I
learn.
did
But
the
Steve,
same thing.
In terms of the different ceiling heights, one thing you can look at is they make little extension rods.
Mhm.
And you could actually get a 1 foot or an 8-inch extension rod to insert into the 9-foot ceiling cans and actually drop those lamps down so everything's at the same height.
Okay.
If there's interest, I'll walk through at some point. I did a 3D printed ceiling lighting system, which actually has 4 circuits on it.
Cool. I've seen
and
it.
it's yeah, in fact, I'll show a picture because it's that way you guys kind of understand. So basically, this is a picture of my layout room. These lights are all 3D printed frames, and the lights that are actually in them are 5-watt LEDs. The ones that are pointing towards you here are 2700 Kelvin. I kind of like that soft yellow golden light, that golden glow kind of light you get. But what I did, because I realized I wanted to have a little bit of a change, the ones that point away are 6K. They're bright. So they're basically the more blue light. And then these cans, these were 3D printed with a bowl from Target. So they have a lens over them, a colored gel to give you that blue lighting. And so, this is kind of what it looks like when you turn it on. Basically, there are 4 circuits here and a ground wire. So it's just DC that runs. So each one of these is connected over using some suitcase connectors. So I put in there are probably about 60 lights on the ceiling. And the total cost was about $300, $250 to $300. So pretty reasonably inexpensive to build. So if there's interest, I can go through how they did that and put the STLs up if anybody's interested in printing those kind of things.
Would square footage have anything to do with the number of lights necessary?
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a combination of watts and square foot. I mean,
yeah.
Yeah, each light has a certain amount of coverage. And I actually made mine so that it had it was brighter. When you walk into the room and you turn it on when all the lights are on full bright, it's really bright because I put dimmers on each circuit. So I've got the 4 circuits and each one's got a dimmer. Figured I could easily dim it when I wanted to. But if you make it too dim, the only way you can make it brighter is to add more fixtures. If you add enough fixtures when you start and lay it out and you make it too bright, you can always reduce it with dimmers. You just got to make sure that when you look at the pattern of the lights that they overlap. And so you're trying not to get too much of a shadow pattern in them.
Will a light meter help you at all on this?
Absolutely.
Sure.
And what kind of numbers are we going to be looking for?
It's not the numbers. What I'd be looking for is just an even lighting across the layout. Don't worry about the number. Just make sure that the amount of light in one spot equals the same amount somewhere else, and that if you run along the layout, your meter stays relatively consistent.
Okay.
Yeah.
I use a meter all the time now. Still with my camera when I'm taking layout shots, so that I can balance the light levels wherever I'm shooting.
Are there inexpensive light meters that homeowner would? No.
No.
Not that are worth anything.
Yeah.
I believe there's apps for your smartphone that will do it too.
that would be interesting. I think we could probably have a whole series on lighting, Phil.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, no, I think that was the reason for doing this conversation was, figure out what kind of topics people would like to focus on beyond just having my builds all the time. So.
I think that'd be a good idea.
Yeah. And by the way, I did just do a light meter read in the Apple App Store, and
that's what I'm doing.
I've got there are a lot of light meters, and there's even free light meters. So
yeah, it looks like you're in business.
I mean, I think you can definitely get a light meter for your phone. How accurate it is probably, as Dennis says, is probably another question altogether. But
rolling over. Bob and
had-
Dennis are like, what are you guys doing?
but
Well, Bob, I lit stage and TV studio lighting too. And
Yeah, so there you go.
So-
We're a good pair.
Yeah.
Between the two of you, we could
Off of the days of black and white television.
Oh, I grew up.
You could throw anything up there.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Gosh, that's interesting.
all right. Well, that was the purpose of this was to seek. I think we found our we threw the bait out there and we got a few fish on this. So yeah, well, that's the show, folks. And now we'd like to have the we'll pick up on this again. We'll have Father Ron close the show out, and then we'll run our caboose. Father Ron.
Master Maker of the universe. Our scale models imitate your creative spirit, and we learn the genius of your handiwork. Teach us to appreciate all you have made. Amen.
Thank you, Father Ron, Master Modeler. And now we have a caboose from Phil.
before I run this, just very quickly, I apologize. This is a little bit jumpy. It was a big layout and I went too fast. Next time when we do these at the narrow gauge convention, even for a large layout, will take more time, even though it'll make it a bit longer caboose. This is an absolutely amazing. If you're into operations, you'll find this layout to be kind of a dream operational layout. Not only the fact that it is a fairly huge layout. As you can see, it's a 60 by 38 foot room, and it's a double/triple deck layout. So with that, we'll go ahead and check it out. You can read here, they've got 5 yards, lots of interchange, and just a huge amount of operating possibilities. Someone made a comment on the fascia here. Is that kind of, textured plastic, thin plastic. It's very nice looking fascia.
So as a reminder, and that was a great video. Thank you, Phil. And look forward to your videos on the narrow gauge convention next week. Next week's show is going to be run by Pat Rivard, and it's going to be an open discussion, nothing structured. So as a bunch of us are going to be at the National Narrow Gauge Convention. The following week, we'll return to our normally scheduled programming. And so I really enjoyed the open chat. I thought that worked really well, Phil and Steve, Cheryl, and everybody else who participated. We'll do that one again. Do that again. We got a lot of good, solid ideas there on the lighting and soldering and color temperatures and just all kinds of things. Some DCC stuff. That was very beneficial. Great job tonight. Okay, have a good evening.
So I take it you didn't do